In the age of Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter, the ways to connect with friends and strangers is easy and it's endless. But social media can also be a destination for anonymity, targeting, and hate. Bullies take to the web telling peers they're better off if they kill themselves. Is this hate or just a form of free speech? How can you find the bully when the profile is fake? Cyberbullying and account jacking. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words and images can sometimes hurt me. We're standing up to cyberbullies on CounterPoint with Gerard McClendon. Is cyberbullying a real crime or just an inconvenience? You're watching CounterPoint. Give us a call at 844-777-9311. Tweet and send Facebook comments to Gerard MC. At the CounterPoint, I've got Kathy Bledsoe, Education Representative for the Indiana State Police. I've got Bob Heiss from Northwest Indiana Times and Civility Counts, and Brian Smith, Superintendent, Highland Public Schools. Welcome to the CounterPoint. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know what? We're in the age of rapid internet. Wi-Fi connections and Ethernet connections are unbelievable now. Gone are the days of the modems that made noise and it took 10 minutes to download a picture. Those days are over. We've got streaming video now. And as nice as these things are and as positive as we can do positive things on the internet, we also find that people do some very negative things on the internet. Let's start by looking at Indiana law. It defines bullying as unwanted, repeated acts including digitally and electronically transmitted communications, as well as physical aggression and other behaviors, intended to harass, ridicule, humiliate, intimidate, or harm the targeted student. Now, it also states that Indiana does not have a specific law against cyberbullying. So even though we have all of these nouns, verbs, and adjectives that state that bullying is a bad thing, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint when it comes to the speech. First thing out, is cyberbullying, is it a real crime or just an inconvenience? Kathy Bledsoe, I got to start with you here because you deal with youth.
Yes.
Educating youth.
First thing I'd like to point out is we do not have a cyberbully law, but we do have 3 statutes related to cyber harassment, computer trespass, and internet intimidation. So we in Indiana are actually being very proactive when it comes to this. We do look at it as a crime. I spent years working in Allen County Juvenile Center, and we had students who were barred in on those statutes because they had violated using technology that the school provided, and the school was able to enforce those statutes on those students.
What's a cyber trespass?
Basically, it's identity theft, creating accounts and causing harm to. And actually, the statute says if they cause a certain number of harm financially, I want to say it's something like $10,000 or $50,000, and if it reaches at least 100 people. So if at least 100, which is easy on the internet, if at least 100 people are going to see this false information, then it can be processed for cyber harassment.
Oh, wow. So if something's put out falsely on you, now it becomes a crime. I want to go to you, Brian Smith. You're a superintendent. We understand that certain things are protected by the First Amendment. But as Kathy mentioned, when it comes to schools, how does a superintendent, a principal, a teacher, how do you deal with that somewhat ghost-like ethereal aspect of students using the internet in a way that's negative, but how do you police that? What do you do?
Great question. It's very difficult to police that in today's society with all the different options that students have. Usually, we can, by law, take care of or work with the internet bullying when it becomes a distraction in our schools. So that's the big word is distraction. When it becomes an issue in the school, it's a distraction, then we can work with it, and at that point we can investigate, do a whole plethora of different things to address depending on the severity of the cyberbullying that's happening.
So I'm glad you brought that up. distraction or disruption, even though it may be something that takes place outside of the school. If it's distracting or disrupting my school building, I can go after that student in terms of that student being disciplined. A student or a parent just can't say, well, this is something that he did on his computer at home and it trickled into the school. That's not an excuse, Mr. Smith?
That's correct. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I was just going to say, but we find that in many cases that hostility that's online doesn't stay there. Once it's in the school, one of the biggest problems with cyber harassment online is that everyone in the school knows it. So you started this environment of hate and hostility that the student now has to try to walk through. So the chances of it actually becoming a real world physical problem for the school grows.
And it happens instantly.
Yes.
You know, it's very quick. Everybody has a phone. Everybody knows without even having a conversation.
You know, it's funny because when you juice up your phone with all the apps, all the social media content, as well as putting alerts on your phone for all, the phone will buzz all day, you know, and you can set it to have alerts for certain people, or you can set it to filter certain people as well. But I want to stay with you, Bob, because why does civility count? Why does it even count? Why is it even important in a world that sometimes embraces uncivilized practices? And that's what this is. I mean, when you're harassing on the internet, that's an uncivilized practice. So why does civility count?
If you get to the heart of civility counts, which is we started this campaign 2 years ago, but it's treating someone the way you want to be treated. And, you know, we're not communicating the way we used to. And, you know, we're not picking up the phone and talking. We're not interpersonal. It's all this other stuff that we're describing. But the heart of it is, do you want to be treated that way? No, you don't. And so we, in our campaign, we started an anti-bullying initiative to bring out good practices and get people thinking about how they can better a school environment, better treating each other. And it really does count. And if you get it when you're young, you're going to keep it and grow it as an adult.
So you got to get to them young. You got to get to the young people.
Well, it's helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful. I think it has to start at a community and then get to a national level eventually. Obviously, the campaign showed the national level needs a lot of help.
So this fast internet, it provides a veil of anonymity. I can be whoever I want on the internet. People have keyboard courage, right? They wouldn't do this or say it in front of a person, but they've got a smartphone, they've got a tablet, they click something, say something insulting, and they get a few likes, get a few hits, get a few comments, and they're happy. They would never say it to that person in their face. So, is there a way to stop this? I'm going to you, Kathy. Is there a way to stop this? Do we do it in a punitive fashion? Do we do it by modeling good behavior? Some people don't want good behavior modeled. What do we do with this?
Well, I think one thing is we're making this problem like it's a small thing. We talk about how it affects schools and students in school, but we forget the worldwide impact. You can post something online and it could have started out as a beef between two kids at school, but the people who comment may have nothing to do with the school, may not even be in the city, state, or country for that matter. There's lots of cases, a very infamous case is the Amanda Todd case. She was in Canada, harassed literally by people all over the world. Her original harasser was in the Netherlands. She eventually killed herself. The other thing that people seem to forget about this is once you post it online, it's there. So if I was cyber harassed online and I just do a Google search with my name, I may see all this hatred and all this evil still there, and it's been 5 years since I've left school, or 20 years.
Yeah.
If you search someone like Amanda Todd, you can still find the horrible posts that were written about her while she was still alive. And the girl's been dead for 3 years.
Yeah.
So we need to look at the massive impact that everything on the internet has. And the first thing we try to do, this is why the Indiana State Police started this initiative of hiring youth educators to go into the school, is education. Get the kids to understand that this is a problem. Not only does it affect the person you are bullying, but this is now linked to you. When you go for a job interview, I can search you and see that you're a bully. I don't want you to be a greeter at my Walmart if I can't you can't be civil to people.
Right, right.
So you're impacting your entire future with this kind of behavior.
I'm glad you brought up that case, because there's also a case in Texas. Brandy Vella
Yes.
commits suicide in front of family
yes.
after the prolonged cyber bullying. And I'm come to you, Brian, with schools. Brandy says in a message to her family, "I love you so much. Just remember that, please. And I'm so sorry for everything." Her family said the harassment focused mainly on Brandy's weight. They would make dating websites about Brandy that were totally untrue, and they would put her number, telephone number up, and they would put her picture up and lie about her age and say that she would do precarious acts online and with anyone. And she takes her life, and we think about the children. You know, Brian, it's tough being a superintendent. It's tough being an administrator, because every day you're thinking about every child and every parent in your district. So how does Highland High, how do all of the Highland schools get in front of this? How do you protect your students and your parents from a cyberbullying case to escalate?
It's a really tough question, because it's so difficult to keep from occurring and spreading fast. We work with our kids from elementary through middle school through high school. We have a very successful, it's called Oveus bullying program that does all types of bullying, not just cyberbullying, where we're working on character for students, character counts, and how important that is. So we try to attack it, all the students that we have. We also train every one of our employees. Part of a prereq to being hired at Highland is there's some videos you watch on bullying, and where you pick up what bullying really is, how bullying occurs, and you're picking up when you see students, is that really bullying? Is that affecting students in a certain way? And then we'll throw resources, all resources we have possible. Guidance, school resource officers, administrators, get parents in, community.
Yeah, you know, Bob, when it comes to, I'm short on time in this first segment, but civility counts. We want to embrace that notion. We want to know that civility does count. To be a civil person, to be a good citizen, that counts. But we have this beautiful thing called the First Amendment. You know, freedom of speech, freedom to petition the government, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, you know, freedom to assemble. All right. So does civility counts sometimes breach freedom of speech? You know, so it's one thing to be civil, but it's another thing to have freedom to voice my concerns, even if it's at a person in an editorialized way.
But you can voice your concerns on an issue or whatever you want to do in a civil way. You do not have to call people names and threaten them and that kind of thing, and that's really where we are. So I think that's what we try to get that message out and get people to think about. Can I do this in a way that I can bring out the topic, the issue of my personal choice without interfering in someone else?
So Bob, can civility be defined?
The way there's a lot of definitions, but really the way I define it is treating each other the way you want to be treated.
Do unto others.
Very simple.
Hold tight, I'm going to keep you. Is cyberbullying a real crime or just an inconvenience? You're watching Counterpoint. Back in Uno Momento. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on Counterpoint. Welcome back to Counterpoint. Is cyberbullying a real crime or just an inconvenience? You're watching Counterpoint. Voice your opinion, 844-777-9311. And Gerard MC on Facebook and Twitter. Kathy Bledsoe, Bob Heiss, and Brian Smith join me to see if we can find humanity in humans. Isn't that interesting? Trying to find a humane quality in human beings. Let me just start by saying, should I ignore a cyberbully? Now, I know it's tough when you're an adolescent because you feel that everything said that's good, complimentary, is the truth, and you feel insulted by every criticism that you get. And it doesn't change when we become mature adults either. But is there a time when I should ignore a cyberbully, or should I retaliate, or should I let the authorities know? Kathy, you just said, oh, whoa, to talk to us.
Well, studies say that 70% of successful cyberbullies cases are handled when kids ignore. When I do my talks in schools, the first thing I tell them, if someone is bullying you, you block them, you record the information in case we do decide we need to prosecute, and you ignore them. The moment you respond, you're feeding that bully, you're encouraging them. Even something as simple as saying, stop it. I recently had a case, actually not that far from here, where a young girl was being cyberbullied and the principal had stepped in. I had been at the school last year to speak to the students about this. 4 of the other students, from my message, decided to try to be positive about the child that was being victimized. Well, the bully just took that as more fodder and attacked the other 4.
It was fuel.
So, exactly. So instead of
fuel.
having 1 child being cyberbullied online, I now had 5 children being cyberbullied online. So even if you're a bystander, the most powerful thing you can do is shut up the bully.
Yeah.
If everyone blocks them, if no one responds, if you told me a bad joke and we didn't laugh, you wouldn't say it again.
No,
Not if you had a. And that's the same way with the bully. If the bully says something mean and no one responds, they'll get the message, hey, that wasn't cool. Maybe I should try a different approach.
Yeah, you're right, Kathy. But let me ask you this, Bob. Civility counts. I want to keep coming back to what the premise is here. In a civility counts situation, do you ignore the bully? Are there actions that a civility counts person, a civil person, should do to?
You can respond or whatever in a way that is the way you would want them to act, and try that approach. I don't know if it'll work. I worry about if you ignore the bully, though, does the bully go to somebody else? I mean, is it time to address it right there?
Deflection, a form of deflection.
Yeah.
So I'm bullying Kathy. Kathy ignores me, and so I'm gonna go to Pam.
Yeah, I wonder, does that happen?
But if you ignore them, record the information and report it, which there's a 3-part to that, not just ignore. You ignore, report, and record. And now I'm going to the principal of the school and saying, hey, this happened online, just want to give you a heads up. I ignored them, but then the school can now act and bring in that child who was the bully online and provide them counseling, because sometimes it is because they're going through something. Or at least let them know, hey, we know the light is on you now.
Yeah,
We're watching.
Brian, can a bully be suspended, expelled, given in school or out of school suspension for a cyber act?
Absolutely.
All of the above. What might be a situation that would warrant that? So I'm online, and let's say I'm online today after school, and I'm clicking away, and I say some pretty terrible things about Bobby. All right, and I just keep going at him, and then it starts to affect the schooling of Bobby. When does this person with this keyboard courage, when do they get a suspension or an expulsion?
It depends on the severity. In a threat, for instance, they're gone. A threat, we're going to bring that person in. We're going to, in most cases, have a due process hearing and probably an expulsion when they're actually physically threatening another student in those situations.
And it doesn't have to happen more than once? So my question is, and to all 3 of you actually, my question is, well, let's stick with schools.
Sure.
A threat is a threat, so we can't get beyond that. But if I'm teasing someone, and it's not a threat, if I'm teasing someone, is it cyberbullying if I do it once or twice, or is it cyberbullying when I do it 12 times? Is there some sort of a threshold of cyberbullying?
The definition of cyberbullying is that it has to be deliberate and repeated.
Repeated.
The repeated is the important thing. You and me had a beef at school, and now I'm going to say something mean, but tomorrow I forgot.
Okay.
Or a week from now I stop. Okay, I've gotten over it, you've gotten over it, we're going to move forward. But now I'm targeting you every day, constantly. I am doing everything I can, and I'm not just targeting anybody, I'm targeting you. then it's a threat.
So let's look at an image blast in your school. And I think you had another, did you have another comment?
I was just going to say, based on what Kathy just said, exactly, it's repeated and then it's progressive. If we try to start with, you know, okay, we brought the child in, you've started this, it needs to stop now. It's having effects on this other child. It ends now, and then the student continues to do it, and then it gets progressive. You know, can lead to very serious consequences.
So Bob, is civility even a real thing, or is it a concept or an ideal that is automatically to be adhered to and embraced?
It's an awareness. So you bring it, you know, I think we have to understand that most people do have a civility piece to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear the extremes, the sound bites, the anonymous comments that are always the negative and all kind. Most people are not in that. So there is that civility. So our idea is to make this converse about it, bring it as an awareness thing, and more people will think about it. Maybe the next time they act.
I would hope that we could get to a point. Well, middle schoolers are just mean. And I'm being very prejudicial there. I used to be a middle schooler.
Yeah, we
you know,
all
they're
did.
going through puberty. You know, they don't quite understand themselves. You know, they're getting acne. You know, certain body parts are starting to grow. It's just a weird time period, you know, and everyone's trying to find their way. And when you're trying to find your way, sometimes you're not really thinking about what Bob says is civility. Sometimes you're not thinking about, as Brian would say, I'm in a school right now, don't care. Sometimes, you know, you're not thinking about the great instruction that Kathy would give. You have an insecurity, and sometimes we project the insecurity on the others. Hurt people hurt people. Don't you just get a pass sometimes? Aren't we being a little sensitive though? That's not, everything's not cyberbullying.
No, everything's not cyberbullying. Again, it has to be repeated and deliberate and progressive. And another thing that happens, you know, we can make a mob mentality of hate, but we can also make a mob mentality of understanding and support. When I've gone into a school and I've come back a second or third time and I've finished a talk and kids now are aware, and a lot of times I ask them, what kind of school do you want to be seen as? Do you want to be seen as the school that's a bully school, or do you want to be seen as the school that's supportive and welcoming? I see a difference in the school, but part of that is that mob mentality of making sure everyone understands what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, and what are the consequences. Now, you've had a bad day, great. If you're in a school where hate is popular, your bad day is going to get worse. But if you're in a school where the school and the administration and the staff and the students are pushing for a civil environment, then you're going to find someone who has that ear for you. You're going to find that shoulder to cry on. And your bad day may not go past that. But it's an environment that we have to make.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I think that's what Civility Counts is trying to get across, the fact that we have to have civil environments. And I think when we look at schools, the children need to know that they're coming to a school. Some children don't know that they're going to school. Some people have to be taught what a school is, because when they get there, they just think it's a place of social interaction and they can just start fights, you know, or sell drugs, or be mean to people. And so, but let me get another point in here. So we know that the Olympics, Gabby Douglas was cyberbullied ridiculously. Back in 2011, there was a student at Lake Central bullied. Parents claimed that the school didn't do anything to stop it. So even though it's deliberate, it's repeated, if it's not documented, you're still in a tough situation. I got about 2 minutes left. Cyberbullying issues in the region. Is it a problem?
Yes. One of the reasons why our task force was formed, or my position was formed, was to help with the fact that we have kids committing suicide. And the suicides are coming from the internet activity. They've been harassed. They've been stalked. We have kids acting out in school. We have kids who are retaliating against the entire school or entire student body because of these incidents. Yes, it is a real problem that affects our students and our bullies the rest of their lives.
Brian, Highland schools, is there a process to eradicate cyberbullying?
I think it gets back to the environment, and we have at Merkley Elementary, for instance, a character counts program. and you teach them from the very beginning. It's about the civility we were talking about, you know, in your character and having your character. Your question a minute ago about is it an issue in our region? It absolutely is. Students have more opportunities today than ever before.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it was MySpace.
Right.
Now it's
Everything.
everything.
Snapchat,
It's-
everything. You
yeah.
know what, Bob, you get the last word. How early can a child be taught civility?
As early as we can in the schools, and that's why we have highlighted anti-bullying in this campaign. And anytime we can recognize the kind of thing going on in schools effectively in the paper and use all these social networks to get it out, we bring awareness and an effort.
Bob, appreciate you being here. Kathy, Brian, thank you so much. It shouldn't be your goal, purpose, and dream in life to bully someone. There are much better things to do, but an idle mind can concoct a cacophony of criticism aimed at the innocent. Bullying is wrong and perpetrators should be disciplined. Be nice to someone today. I dare you. Thank you for watching CounterPoint. Stay positive, keep your head up, and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a great week.